Hello everybody, welcome to day 2 here at the Nürburgring, the penultimate weekend of the Prototype Cup Germany 2024 Championship. And it's a largely dry circuit that awaits the drivers today, although we have had overnight rain, which has left some damp patches on track. But I think the slick Michelin tyre is the one that you would probably go for the next 55-minute plus 1 lap race that we've got coming up. Just 2 rounds to go after this at the Sachsenring. And with the results from yesterday's race, it is just 18 points now between the top 2 pairs in the championship. Thorsten Kratz and Danny Soufi had a lively day yesterday. Danny Soufi had some contact, had a penalty, had a spin as well in the first part of the race, and so they lost out in terms of points. Finished 6th overall, got the points for 5th place because the winning pair of Ralf and David Schumacher are guest entries. They won on their debut and Ralf's first race competitively for 12 years. And so the benefit in terms of the championship went to Riccardo Cirelli and Julian Apostolos, second in the championship now. They are 18 points adrift of Thorsten Kratz and Danny Soufi. Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalano are down to 3rd in the championship, and they are 23 points adrift. After this race, there'll be 50 points available. So mathematically, it has to go down to the last day of the, or last weekend of the championship. It can't be won today now after yesterday's results. Danny Soufi, though, has done enough to wrap up the junior standings. So it's David Schumacher that will take to the wheel for this second race of the weekend. Each, where there are driver pairings, each driver does 1 qualifying session each, in whichever qualifying session you compete in. You start that race. So David did the 2nd session. He'll start on pole position after a tremendous victory yesterday with his dad, Ralf Schumacher, the 6-time Formula 1 Grand Prix winner. Both of them former DTM racers as well. And after 2 years in the DTM, David Schumacher's best result came at this circuit, a 9th place finish in the points. He's currently 3rd in the GT3 Championship. Somebody else that likes the Nürburgring, but in particular the Nordschleife, is this man, Felipe Laza, one of the 2 gold-rated drivers in the championship. He is a Nürburgring 24-hour overall race winner. He's had multiple class wins as well. Keanu Alizari, a great driver after a difficult first lap yesterday. He came back after a grassy moment where he dropped down to 5th place. Eventually finished in an excellent 2nd place yesterday. So he has moved up to 5th place in the championship now. He's one of the single drivers, so he'll do the whole session himself, but everybody has to come in and make a mandatory pit stop. Keanu also competing in the Spanish F4 Championship, which he's winning this year. Marcus Pommer, the stalwart of Prototype Cup racing, started his career many years ago as a front runner in single-seater racing, but he's one of the drivers going for the championship title. He just couldn't quite find his way through out of his title rivals yesterday, but Marcus Pommer, the reigning champion, do not count him out. Riccardo Cirelli, a good drive as always yesterday for the youngster who's in his first season in competitive car racing, having had a very glittering karting career, winning in Europe and across the world, and things like the Italian karting championships and the Out-and-Centre karting championship. So he's been a real addition to the championship this year, one of the young drivers coming through into LMP3 racing, which is what this category is. Antti Ramo, though, terrible day for him yesterday. The Estonian got involved in some contacts with Danny Soufi. That was what got Danny Soufi the penalty, but he picked up a very heavily damaged tyre, rear tyre, and that completely delaminated, caused damage to the bodywork. He came into the pits and ultimately, I'm afraid, retired from the race. Starting 7th, just behind him, is the Brazilian, Suelo Almeida, and he's going to be in one of the Duquesnes. There are 3 different chassis manufacturers involved. Ligier take up most of the grid. There are some Duquesnes as well. There's also the one Ginetta out there this weekend with a late entry in the 2nd seat of that one, sharing with Sven Bart is going to be Michael Lyons this weekend, but they had trouble with their Ginetta yesterday. Michael only did a couple of laps, then had to retire the car once he got in for the 2nd stint. Jakob Elbacker starts the one of the Gebhardt Motorsports Duquesnes. He's there going to be 8th on the grid after qualifying. Well, he was 1.7 seconds adrift of the overall fastest time set by David Schumacher. That was within half a second or so of the 3 or 4 cars ahead of him, so it could be a tight midfield scrap here. They'll have a mandatory pit stop then between the 22nd and 32nd minute of the race. Everybody has to come in and change drivers. There is a minimum pit stop time of 95 seconds for everybody, but you get additional time added on depending on the rating of the drivers. The higher the rating of the drivers, the longer you spend in the pits, essentially. There are different rules depending on whether you are a pair or a single driver as well. But basically you've got the 3 levels of drivers. The gold standard drivers, so Ralf Schumacher is a gold driver, Felipe Lazar is a gold driver. The majority of them are silver rated drivers. And then bronze drivers as well. So depending on the pairing, that's the amount of time additional on top of that 95 seconds in the pits you get. Plus, you also get the top 3 from the previous race who have another additional penalty on top of that. So 7 seconds additional in the pits for winning yesterday for the Schumachers, 4 seconds for Keanu Al-Azari, and 2 seconds additional for Julian Potolov and Riccardo Ciurelli. These are beautiful V8 engines that rumble along in these prototype cars. They produce over 450 brake horsepower, and these LMP3 cars in their 3rd season out of the Prototype Cup Germany, having had a difficult start to the season. They were supposed to start the season at the wonderful Spa-Francorchamps circuit, but incredibly, even though it was in the spring, it snowed and the event got called off, so they had to bolt on additional rounds as we went. So effectively the first round of the season became the Lausitzring, then the bit of Zandvoort, Hockenheim, and here at the Nürburgring. So there is the grid. David Schumacher and Felipe Lazar will line up on the front row of the grid together. Keanu Al-Azari and Marcus Pommer on row 2, and then on row 3 of the grid, starting 5th and 6th, it's going to be Ciurelli with Antti Ramo and his repaired car starting next on the outside, 6th on the grid. Then we'll have Almeida and Elbacker up next, 7th and 8th on the grid for the 4th row. At the 5th row of the grid, it'll be Torsten Kratz starting today. Stefan Aust is a sole driver, so he starts the number 71 car. And then Mikkel Johansson and Michael Lyons next up. Michael Lyons, great to have him back in the championship. He's done the odd round. He's had a long relationship with Gebhard Motorsport. He's most famous for historic racing. He's in his early 30s, 33 years of age, the British driver from Harlow in England, and is a multiple winner of the Monaco historic Formula One Grand Prix. In fact, sometimes he's had multiple podiums and multiple wins at the same event because he drives cars from different eras. His dad Frank and his mum Judith also race historic cars. They'll get, because of the changing conditions, 2 formation laps before we get the race underway, and when we do, it'll be a 55-minute plus 1 lap race. So a reminder in terms of the championship points for the overall championship, it is 25 points for a win, 20 points for second, 16 for third, 13 for fourth, 11 for 5th, and it goes all the way down to a point for 15th place. There are no bonus points for fastest laps or pole positions, but because there are some guest drivers in there, they don't score points. So if they finish ahead of you, you take their points. So yesterday, for example, the Schumachers won, but the team in second place took the 25 points. So that's to bear in mind as well. And just 23 points between the top 3 teams in the standings. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm going to be talking you through the action for this second and final race of the weekend before we head in a few weeks' time to the wonderful Sachsenring for what is going to be the championship decider. David Schumacher then for us racing on pole position with a time on his qualifying session of 1:23.695, which was about a 10th quicker than his dad Ralf did in the earlier session. But of course, slightly changeable conditions, or both dry conditions, but the track does change as it goes on. That's Ralph's excuse anyway. 4/10 of a second behind was Felipe Lazar, and then Keanu Al-Azari was nearly 8/10 of a second behind in qualifying. But this is a different track, a different beast. It's much cooler than it was for qualifying day. There are damp patches there. We've got mist and fog around that threatened to delay the start of the entire day, and it did slightly, but we have got that fog now pretty well cleared. It's going to be a rolling start then as these V8s roar into life, ready for the latest adventure in the championship. And it will be David Schumacher, once the safety car comes in, that will control the pace, and then they'll pull the trigger when they get to the start-finish line. They're normally aspirated, these cars run on slick Michelin tyres. It's a Nissan V8 engine that you can hear roaring along, 5.6 litres of pure pleasure and power. Here we go then, coming through the last turn on this 3.6 kilometre-long Nürburgring circuit, the sprint version of the full Grand Prix circuit. They turn off and cut the corner at turn 5. It is a great track, though, with plenty of overtaking opportunities. And here we go. David Schumacher to the left of the picture, to the right of the picture, Felipe Laza. They pull the trigger, the lights go out, the race gets underway as they charge towards the first corner. It's a long run to a very slow corner, a right-hander where they drop down to first gear. Laza's got a really good start. He's going to try and go all the way around the outside of Schumacher. He's going to do it as well. He's got the lead of the race. You've got Marcus Pommer trying to get around the outside as well. That will give the German the inside on David Schumacher into turn 2. He's not quite there yet. Schumacher has just about fended him off. There's contact further back, though, involving Riccardo Cirelli dropping down the order, one of the championship contenders in the pink BWT Muka Motorsport car. Meanwhile, here is the number 1 machine trying to get number 71 machine trying to get into the action. Lassa has got the lead. Schumacher is second. Pommer is there in third place. Number 21 Alazari is there in fourth position. All sorts of tussles going on here. Maxim Dirks gets a little tap and he's going to be sent wide. This second group of cars is almost 4 abreast. You've got Antti Ramo in there as well, the Estonian. The number 2 car of Torsten Kratz tried to come through as well. The turquoise and black Conrad car just behind him. Stefan Aust in the red and blue Rinaldi Racing car, one of the Ligiers. And they're all holding each other up and just allowing the front runners to completely get away. But a very tricky start to the race for Cirelli, who's ended up down in 10th place, having started up in 5th position on the grid. So work to do, but plenty of time to come back now. So it's been a fairly chaotic first lap for that second group of cars. Not the ideal start for David Schumacher from pole position either, but he isn't far behind as they come past the commentary box window over the start-finish line. The race leader's only just about 0.4 of a second clear. Schumacher in second, Pommer in third, Alcazari in fourth. Almeida with a good start up to 5th. Ramo holding station in 6th place. Antti Ramo, the only driver that held station in that race. Others gained or lost positions. And there is a move from Aust up the inside of Kratz to gain a position all the way into turn 1. And that will put the championship leaders down to 9th place overall now. So drivers just trying to get the hang of the circuit because they've been on the dry up until now, and now this is a damp circuit. It's a dry track in terms of the tyres, but there is damp patches still, and it's cooler, colder track temperature by a long way than we've had so far this weekend. So they're just trying to learn as they go, learn on the job. Torsten Kratz now through the hairpin, looking like he's trying to come back a bit. Incident under investigation between Torsten Kratz in the number 2 Conrad car and Riccardo Cirelli. That was what ended up tumbling them both down the order, but Cirelli's got back ahead now and gained 1 back on Kratz, as we just saw. So he's back now in that pink machine up into 9th place. A replay of a chaotic start then. A really good start, wasn't it, for Felipe Laza. Just carried the momentum around the outside of Schumacher to get the lead. Schumacher that was then under scrutiny going into turns 2 and 3 from Marcus Pommer. Let's see if we can see what happened to Cirelli. He got kind of hung out to dry on the outside. Oh, there was the contact. Yeah, so it was on the left rear corner of Cirelli's car, and he just got put into a tank slapper, and that was the contact coming from Torsten Kratz as 4 cars tried to squeeze into a very tight space. Now, these are the leaders at the start of the 3rd lap of the race. The gap is coming down by the looks of it, at least under braking into turn 1. Schumacher was good on the brakes there, closing up to the race leader. He's also set the best lap of the race so far. So he's got the gap down fractionally to the leader, Felipe Laza. They are both 2 seconds clear of Marcus Pommer in 3rd. Alcazari in 4th. He's not that far behind Pommer either. Looking at Antti Ramo, number 14, chasing down the Mexican driver, Suelo Almeida. The Brazilian driver, Suelo Almeida. He's in the Ligier. And this is the battle for 5th place, about 0.2 of a second between them. So they go nose to tail through turn 5, where they come off the Grand Prix circuit, cut the corner, and this is where the circuit really opens up now, and you get to the proper speeds of these cars, which on average in qualifying, the average speed was almost 160 kilometres an hour. They go through the left-hander at turn 6, through this right at turn 7, the Bilstein curve, and you don't touch the brakes now until you get to the chicane at the top of this hill, the top of this climb, into that left-right chicane that the leaders have just gone through at the Vidal chicane, turns 9 and 10. Slight uphill climb then into the final corner at turn 11. And there, Antti Ramo is on the attack, but also on the defence, because he's got Jan Elbacker behind. Stefan Aust and Riccardo Cirelli, I think, have swatched positions again. So that puts Aust in 8th, Cirelli 9th. And they both got ahead of Kratz on the previous lap as well. So Kratz down to 10th place now, but with the rapid Danny Sufi to get in for the second stint. I suspect he'll be getting in early-ish in the pit window. You've got the slightly quicker driver. You want to do a shorter stint and get them in the car as quickly as you can. So their confirmation of that gap coming down by 0.2 of a second over the last 2 laps. Schumacher reeling in now. Felipe Lassa. Lassa had a great drive yesterday through the field when he got in the car. It was towards the back end of the field down in, I think, 10th place, but he dragged the car kicking and screaming all the way up the order, pulled up some great moves in the latter part of the race to get up to 5th place. So gold-rated driver, a Nürburgring specialist, and Felipe Lassa at the moment he's able to fend off Ralf Schumacher. The pair of them, though, covered by just about 0.2 of a second. And in the background, you can see 3rd and 4th, Pommer and Alzari, are almost nose to tail as well. So Alzari starting to get into the groove now. That track is going to change as the session goes on as well. It will get drier, it will get quicker, and it will also have more rubber laid down upon it. So whatever braking points you had, or whatever turning points you had at the start of the race, you might just have to push. So David Schumacher coming down, bearing down now upon Felipe Lassa, and Schumacher is going to luck up the inside. David Schumacher's got the line. Can he get the car slowed down in time? No is the answer. He goes wide, but if he can just stay there, he'll have the better line for the left-hander. And David Schumacher gets through into the lead of the race. Felipe Lassa down to 2nd, having got the lead at the very beginning of the race. And now will he be able to keep up with David Schumacher? Because Schumacher was easily the quickest in qualifying in this group, as I say, by 0.4 of a second over Lassa per lap. And already David is starting to get away. So the former DTM racer makes his way then into the right-hander at turn 5. He's won the last 2 rounds of the ADAC GT Masters Championship, which has put him up to 3rd place in the overall standings. Had some bad luck when he was leading a race at Oschersleben in the first round of that championship as well, with a brake failure, which cost him a potential podium, maybe a race victory, but still fighting for the championship. But this is his prototype debut, and this is a replay of a very good move from David Schumacher. Pulled out of the slipstream, found the line. Felipe Lassa gave him room. It looked like he wasn't going to make the corner. He was so tight on the entrance, it sent him wide on the exit, but you can get away with that with the configuration of the circuit here, because the next corner is a left-hander. You just stay there, you know you've got the line. So it was a well thought out move by David Schumacher. Started his career in single-seaters before moving to GTs, which is what he concentrates on these days, and got as high as the FIA Formula 3 Championship at the Formula 1 support bill. Was a race winner in FIA Formula 3. Before that, raced for Dad Ralph's us racing team in the Formula Regional Championship, where he finished in 4th place, got 4 wins. So he's reunited with Dad's team, Us Racing. They've got this prototype cup. Ralf Schumacher, the ex-Grand Prix racer, to get in for the 2nd stint. He absolutely loved yesterday. Great experience, making great memories with his son as their first race together. So what about the battle for 3rd? Pommer and Alzari. That's what you're looking at now. Marcus Pommer is about 0.6 of a second clear of the driver from the UAE, Keanu Al-Azari, there in the number 21 car, driving for the Mulder Motorsport team. Bernard Mulder involved in motorsport for 4 decades or so. Started out when he built his first competition car himself with his brother back in the late 1970s. Factory based just outside Spa-Francorchamps, and Keanu coming into the championship off the back of Mulder Motorsport's initiative to try and get young upcoming drivers into the championship. So they held various tests days around Europe, and then they picked the best drivers from those test days. Had a final at Barcelona, and it was Keanu Al-Azari that got the opportunity, by winning that scholarship competition, to come and compete in the championship, something we might not have had the opportunity to do budget-wise without that. So great initiative from Mulder Motorsport, and they're looking to do that again in 2025, but in the US, which will be exciting. So Mulder Motorsport helping bring young drivers through, which is great to see, because the sport is always an expensive sport at whatever level you compete in, even in karting. So sometimes great talent goes by the wayside just because drivers don't have the budget to compete. So well done to Mulder Motorsport for that. Just saw there in the background Mikkel Johansson has done much of running so far this weekend in that number 47 green and black AF2 Motorsport car. Jaime Guzman had all sorts of trouble with it yesterday, and a botched pit stop as well when he came in with an issue early on in the race. Keanu Alazari, then the Spanish Formula 4 Championship leader, got his third win of the season at the end of July in that single-seater championship with a victory at the Aragon circuit. And he is just fading away a little bit here from Marcus Pommer, the defending champion. He's almost 0.8 of a second down now. They're going up the hill into the left-right sequence on the way through the Vidal chicane, but they are about 10 seconds clear of Antiramo, who's in 5th place. Almeida is in 6th. He's still got Albaca within a second of him in the 80 car in 7th place. Cirelli in 8th place. Pretty much everybody on that last lap setting personal best lap times, and the best lap time going to the race leader, David Schumacher, 1:25.750 seconds. That's 0.7 of a second quicker than Lasser. So the gap suddenly, a couple of laps after getting the lead, is out to 2.7 seconds, trying to build as much cushion as he possibly can. So as a gold and silver pairing, it'll be 20 seconds additional time in the pits on top of the minimum that everybody has to serve for the Schumachers, plus that 7 seconds for winning yesterday. So the Schumachers will have an additional 27 seconds minimum pit stop time over the standard base rate, if you want to call it that. Whereas Felipe Lasser is a gold standard driver, but his teammate, Klaus Abelin, is a bronze level driver, and they only get an additional 10 seconds. They weren't in the top 3 yesterday either. So, effectively, Schumacher has got to be 17 seconds or more in front of Lasser to be able to retain the lead after the pit stops, if pit stops go according to plan and they get it right. So that is why he's got his head down and he's trying to build up, because he's got to stop for an additional 27 seconds. The car in 2nd place only for 10 seconds, and then Marcus Pommer and Valentina Catalano, they've got to stop for 20 seconds. They're the team in 3rd place. The driver that's behind, single driver Keanu Alazari, has got to stop for 5 seconds longer, 25 additional seconds, but also another 4 for finishing 2nd yesterday. So Pommer actually in a strong position here, because he's already 6 or 7 tenths ahead of Alazari, but he's also got a much shorter pit stop to come. So that's all to bear in mind. You're looking at Riccardo Cirelli then. Bad first lap with that contact from Torsten Kratz. Didn't have a great grid either, really. 5th place, right in the middle of the pack. But has come back a couple of positions up into 8th place now. The car, which is going to be shared with Julien Apotelos, and he's about, I think, to gain another place, or thinking about it, looking at the inside of Jan Albaca. But Albaca defends for now, holds him up. Saw some good defensive driving from Albaca on Felipe Lasser for a lap or so yesterday. Felipe was much quicker, but Albaca made it difficult for the Spanish driver to get through. Probably put up the best defence, really, of anybody that Felipe Lasser charged past in the second half of the race yesterday, and he's proving to be a difficult opponent at the moment. Albaca is clinging on to that 7th place, and Cirelli at the moment can't quite find a way through. So Albaca, the multi-liveried number 80 car, sharing that car with Maxime Dirix. It's an art livery on that car, because Maxime, the co-driver, is supported by an artist called Christophe de Ferriand, who designed the livery on the car. Christophe's uncle, the artist Christophe's uncle, Hugh de Flairiant, was a race winner, a winner of the 24 Hours of Spa back in 1975, and raced at Le Mans 7 times as well. So combining art with motorsport, with the driver behind the wheel at the moment. Albaca is busy thinking about other things, busy trying to think about holding on to that 7th place. He's actually pulled away a bit on that lap, hasn't he, from Cirelli. So 7th and 8th, the gap goes up ever so slightly, but it might come down at turn 1. That's where the number 8 car seems to be a little bit quicker. Cirelli looking for these points as well, don't forget, because 2nd in the championship. Championship leaders behind them at the moment, Torsten Kratz and Danny Sufi back in 10th place. But they are losing points to the team that's right behind them, only 5 points behind them coming into this race, of Marcus Pommer and Valentina Catalano, currently running in 3rd place. Now here he goes through the first sector. Definitely that gap comes down, doesn't it? We're about 5.5 minutes away from the pit window opening, which will open for 10 minutes. And everybody will have to come in during that 10-minute phase. At the head of the field, on another charge, is David Schumacher, who's just on the absolute best first sector, and the race leader is just on the absolute best second sector as well. So the car is getting a bit lighter of fuel. The track is gripping up. All the damp patches are going away. Michelin tyres are a bit more warm, but they won't have had as much wear and tear as normal, given that the circuit wasn't completely bone dry at the start of the race. Car number 47, which is started by Mikkel Johansson, is under investigation, or was under investigation for an incorrect grid position. It's now got a penalty of 5 seconds, so 5-second penalty for an incorrect grid position. And also, the championship leaders have got a penalty coming up for an incorrect grid position, being out. That means being out of the slightly out of line for the rolling start. And that means that the number 2 car will get a 5-second penalty as well to add to their woes. That's in 10th place at the moment. I don't think it'll actually cost it a place in the race. No, it will just. It'll drop it behind Michael Lyons, who's in 11th place and 4.4 seconds back. And of course, it's going to make life even harder for Danny Soufi. So a tough weekend so far for the championship leaders. Haven't had a win since the first weekend of the season at the Lausitz-Ring, but they have finished on the podium in all but 2 races. One of those races, though, was yesterday at the Nürburgring. So this is Torsten Kratz now carrying this 5-second penalty. Well, we've got that message, and he'll be on the hurry up here to try and get his place back from Stefan Aust. He is on the case of the 9th place car, the number 71 car of Aust. It's about 0.3 of a second between them, and he's trying to make up for this 5-second penalty that's going to be added on to his time. So he pushes on. He is still only 4.4 seconds clear of Michael Lyons, so it's still going to cost him 10th place once that time is added on. Pushing wide, going over the curbs, almost kissing the gravel there as he made his way out of the Bilstein curve at turn 7 to get on the gas, get on the accelerator as quickly as possible for that steep climb up to this chicane here. Thanks, going through his shot. Cirelli is still on the case of Erlbacher, but still can't quite find a way through. It's not been close enough to have an attempt as yet, really, either. Replay of this leery moment then from Torsten Kratz, just running a little bit wide, taking a bit too much curve. Not ideal for grip, but it's not good for the tyres either, so he won't need to do that too many times in the race. Try and look after the tyres as much as he can. And at the moment, it's about half a second down, coming into the braking zone here for turn 1, and looks like he's being caught as well by Michael Lyons. So Michael Lyons in 9th place is catching him. He's within 3.9 seconds, which means add 5 seconds to Kratz's time, and he's definitely behind Lyons now, and it'll put him down in 11th place. And I suspect it'll be in a couple of minutes' time, early in the pit window, that we get Torsten Kratz in and Danny Soufi to try and recover what he can. Gap comes down at turn 5, though, between the number 80 Jan Erlbacher car and the number 8 car pursuing him of Riccardo Cirelli. The Italian is winding things up again here to try and get himself up into 7th place. It's going to be an additional 20 seconds in the pits for Erlbacher and his teammate that's going to get in, Maxim Dirks, because they're a silver-paired driver, but that will be exactly the same for Apostolos and Cirelli, but they've also got 2 seconds on top of that for finishing 3rd yesterday. So effectively, Cirelli, to get ahead of the car that's right in front of him, needs to get past him and build a gap of 2 seconds to make up for that additional time it's going to have in the pits from the success penalty of being on the, well, not quite on the podium. It was 4th yesterday, but got the points for finishing in no, it was 3rd, but points for 2nd, but finished in 3rd. We've got the penalty for 3rd of 2 seconds additional time. This is where he's really quick on the way into turn 1 and through the AMG arena, and this is where the gap really comes down, but Erlbacher doing just enough to fend off Cirelli. At the head of the field, the gap is out to 9.7 seconds now. David Schumacher, Felipe Lazar continues to grow that gap by about 0.4 of a second per lap, as expected, really, given the pace in qualifying. So Schumacher, still though, needs to build more of a gap because, remember, 17 seconds longer in the pits for the Schumachers than for the car behind, driven at the moment by Felipe Lazar, who I suspect will stay in right till the end of the pit window as the quicker of the drivers in that car. Felipe Lazar, a gold-rated driver. Klaus Abelin, very experienced driver, but a bronze-rated driver. The best will in the world. He's not as quick as Felipe Lazar. Flashing the lights now to try and distract the driver ahead is Cirelli, but Erlbacher is not for moving, and the longer it goes on, almost the easier it becomes for Erlbacher to defend, because he knows exactly where he's stronger and exactly where he's weaker and where the attacks might come from, so he's better set up, better prepared to defend from Cirelli at those particular segments, those particular corners, and he looks to me like he's got this under control at the moment. So over the line they will come. Gap from 1st to 2nd grows a bit more, 11 seconds between David Schumacher and Felipe Lazar. Marcus Pommer is still only 0.6 of a second ahead of Keanu Alazari, but has got a shorter pit stop to come. Pit window is just open then. And look at this, absolutely nose to tail through turn 1, through turn 2. The gap widens a little bit into turn 3, the left-hander. They'll be nose to tail again. Then they'll head into the 90-degree right-hander at turn 4, to the back straight down towards the hairpin, which is an overtaking spot. And Cirelli is thinking about winding it up here. Has he got his foot in the door? Not quite yet, but Albacher under all sorts of pressure as they come over the crest and head down in towards the hairpin in this battle for 7th and 8th positions. But again, he's not quite close enough to have a lunge down the inside. But Cirelli looks like he's getting impatient here. Very keen to get through. Julian Apostolos to take over the wheel of the car. As we go back to the race leader, David Schumacher, who is averaging about 0.4 of a second a lap quicker. But on the last lap, he was a second quicker than Felipe Lassa. So the gap back to over 12 seconds now. There is Ralf Schumacher, who's one of his Formula One Grand Prix victories came here at the Nürburgring back in 2003, 21 years ago. He was the winner of the European Grand Prix. Took a 1-2 finish with teammate Juan Pablo Montoya for Williams. A great day for Ralf Schumacher and a great weekend for him so far on his return to motorsport for the first time in 12 years as a competitive driver. And he's lost none of his edge. The Fricadelli Racing team are getting ready for their driver change as well, as they all will be now. Sometimes you have a plan of when you're going to come in, but it might change if things happen out on circuit. But in comes the first of our pit visitors then. And as suspected, it's going to be the Conrad car, and it's going to be a handing over to Danny Soufi. So on top of the 95 seconds, they get 10 seconds additional time for their silver-bronze pairing. Danny Soufi then to get into the car for Franz Conrad's team. He's from Austin in Texas. Just recently turned 21 years of age. Has, I think, mathematically now done enough to wrap up the junior title after yesterday's result. Prototype Winter Series champion with Conrad at the beginning of the year with 3 race wins. It's a series that ran across Portugal and Spain as a warm-up to the main season. Competed in the Prototype Cup Germany with Conrad last year as well. Had a best finish of 6th last year, but Danny Soufi has had far better results than that this year. Championship leader, 2 wins, 3 seconds, 2/3 coming into today's race. There you can see the Fricadelli car. We saw Klaus Abelin getting his helmet on, getting ready to go shortly, but again, Lassa will, I think, push it right to the end of the window. And in comes Keanu Alazari, single driver, silver driver, which means he gets 25 seconds additional in the pit lane, plus the 4 seconds on top of that success for finishing second in the race at 29 seconds here, which should drop him quite a long way behind the number 70 car of Catalano and Pommer. He's got 7 seconds longer than them in the pits, and he was 6 or 7 of a second behind them before the pit window opened. Ralf Schumacher then getting ready to go. Take over from son David. It's a fantastic day yesterday. He's absolutely overjoyed, all smiles on the top step of the podium together, making great memories, the father and son pairing. It's good to see David Schumacher showing his adaptability as well, going from GTs and to get used to ABS in GT cars over the last few years, which was quite tricky for him, and much different levels of downforce than he was used to when he was an F3 racer. No ABS, no traction control on this car, and again, he's adapted well to it, and against drivers that have been in the championship all year, and in some cases for several years, driving these LMP3 cars. David Schumacher has done an excellent job. He's going to be almost 15 seconds clear of Felipe Lassa at the end of this lap. Will he come in at the end of this lap, or will we squeeze one more out of it? There are 6 minutes to go. Antti Ramo moves up to 4th, while Azari is in the pits. We're still waiting for our top 3, Schumacher, Lassa and Pommer, to come into the pits. Well, Azari in 4th, the first of the front runners to make his pit stop. Choose to do that whenever he wants as a single driver, as long as it's within that window. Right, the race leader, glance in the mirrors and see nothing. Absolute monster of a lead here for David Schumacher. All those damp patches that were at this part of the circuit earlier in the race seem to have gone now. Nice and smooth from Schumacher. Through the chicane he goes, and I think he's going to stay out for another lap at least, isn't he? Yes, he is. Why not? Because he's flying. So David Schumacher continues on. Just about to come through into the chicane is Felipe Lassa in second place at the moment, 3.7 seconds clear of Marcus Pommer now. So then you have Antti Ramo up to fourth, but yet to make a pit stop. Elbacker up to fifth, Cirelli up to sixth. Oh dear, car number 21, Alazari, under investigation for a pit stop time. So has he gone out a fraction of a second too early? It's all about getting to the white line on the pit lane exit just after or even on the absolute minimum time. But if you undercut it even by a fraction of a second, they will spot it on the timing beam and they will give you a penalty. So it's usually cut and dry, and more often than not, if you're under investigation, you end up getting a penalty. So that could be bad news for Alazari. After a great day yesterday, the driver fifth in the championship, under investigation in the 21 car for Mulner Motorsport. Right, Cirelli in the pits at the moment then. So Cirelli, number 8, is going to hand over to Julian Apostolos, the team that are second in the championship, the Swiss driver, to take over. And you can see on the graphic there the countdown clock, the amount of time they've got left in the pits as a minimum. Mikkel Johansson has come in as well in the number 47 car. One of the cars carrying a 5-second time penalty, which is to be borne in mind for the number 2 car of Danny Sufi and Torsten Kratz as well. Looking at now the Conrad car. So that back out on track. In then gets Julian Apostolos, ready for his final stint of the weekend. Try and get that car as high up the order as he can. And thinking about every single point now, it being so close between the top 3 in the championship standings. Apostolos, 23 years of age, second in the championship last year, the Prototype Cup. With Oscar Tunko, had 3 wins last year. One of them came here at the Nürburgring. He was the runner-up in the junior classification last year. He's going to win it this year for the younger drivers. He's come from all sorts of different backgrounds, really. He raced in the GT4 Championship, he's raced in the GT World Challenge. Before that, he was racing front-wheel drive touring cars in TCR Germany, and a very impressive karting career in the Swiss Karting Championships before that, making adjustments. 22 seconds to go, and there's some dent to the exhaust outlet there from the contact early in the race. Scrapes all down the side pod as well. They're just making sure that that doesn't get blocked up, opening it up as much as they can. But away he's released. They've got to do it without losing time in the pit stops as well. This is where that damage took place. See the pink car to the left there, and that was the contact. So it was right on that left rear corner. That came from Torsten Kratz, which is why he's got a 5, well, not why he's got a 5-second penalty. He's got a 5-second penalty because of the start line position infringement, but it also didn't put a dent in the exhaust outlet there, and luckily didn't damage the left rear tyre of that car. So he has gone back out now, Apostolos, driving the number 2 car, and in and around him, Luca Lincoln or Suelo Almeida. That car shared the Data Lab Sports Ligier, the 71 car. Luca Link making his debut this season, the Sport Prototype Cup, was at last weekend at Hockenheim for a first time, and a German driver will be in that number 7 car for his second weekend, having raced in the BMW M2 Cup Championship last year. So that's Luca Link, the German driver in the number 7 car, young driver who's only in his second season of car racing. His best results in the BMW M2 Cup at this track with a 5th place finish last year. You can see Antti Ramo from the commentary box has just come into the pit lane as well, and Marcus Pommer is already in as well. So, and Elbacker, and so Schumacher's going to leave it late. Lassa is going to leave it late, as predicted, really. But they'll have to be coming in soon. There's only 1 minute and 17 seconds left on the clock. The race leader, David Schumacher, is just about to come in, I think. Yes, he does. He turns right and heads down into the pit lane, as he had to do, really, because he wouldn't have had time to do another lap, would he, to come in. So the same will be true of Felipe Lassa, who's just coming up towards the chicane. And there is Ralf Schumacher, cool as ice, ready to go. Quick last word with the pit stop crew member to check on procedures, and in comes David Schumacher then. So this pair with 20 seconds additional time because of their driver rating, but also another 7 seconds on top of that for yesterday's race victory. So David gets out, Ralf clambers in, the 49-year-old getting into position and helped in by David Schumacher. And there in the background you saw Felipe Lassa coming in as well. So the real race here with Schumacher is going to be with the car that was running in second place and was running in first place at one point in the race for the first 3 or 4 laps. That just came into the pits, but Felipe Lassa is going to be replaced by Klaus Abelin, and Klaus Abelin is, as I say, not as quick, hasn't been as quick as Felipe Lassa. So Schumacher's looking good here. It's whether the Lassa-Abelin pairing can hold on to a second or third place finish here and get a podium. Had a win last time out at Hockenheim. 45 seconds left to go for them. A bit further up the pit lane, Felipe Lassa is strapping in Klaus Abelin then, ready for his stint. The bronze-rated driver, 63-year-olds from Tunisvorst, which is just outside Dusseldorf, founder of the Fricadelli racing team. He's raced in all sorts, French GT, FIA GT, LMP3, the Nürburgring 24-hour race, of course, as well. Last year he was 12th in the Porsche Endurance Trophy at the Nürburgring with his own team, Fricadelli. And he was, back in 2001, a Euro GT Series class champion. So a huge amount of racing. First season in endurance racing was all the way back in 1999. And with the slightly shorter pit stop, Abelin is going to get out just in front of Schumacher. In fact, it's a slow stop, wasn't it, for Schumacher, because he should have been out by now. Should have been crossing that line about 6 seconds ago. So they slightly fumbled the pit stop there. Should have got out probably just in front. They've got out just behind, but I don't think it's going to be an issue for Ralf Schumacher to effectively get that lead of the race back. So they are making their way through into turn 4. You've got Antti Ramo, who doesn't have any success seconds as a single driver that is bronze rated, so he's had the shortest pit stop of anybody, and that has helped him go up to third place for the time being. The Estonian, better day than he was having yesterday. Catalano has emerged in fourth. Al-Azhari, with his longer pit stop, as suspected, has dropped back to 5th place. And there is the move from Luca Link diving up the inside of Maxim Dirks. The Belgian driver might lose another place here. He will lose another place here to Danny Soufi as well. So 2 places lost in 1 corner, basically. And Danny Soufi going on the attack. The driver he's really looking at is the one 2 cars in front. That pink machine, the championship contenders, 2nd place, Julian Apostolos, have been taken over from Riccardo Cirelli, 2nd in the championship, and 2 places behind. Charging after him is the championship leader to try and make sure he doesn't lose any more points going into the final weekend of the season. So Danny Soufi with his head down here. First, though, he's got a dispatch with Luca Link. Wants to do it quickly, but Luca is going to fend him off. But the time, sorry, Stefan Aust for the time being. And here we have got the change of lead has happened already. Ralf Schumacher arrives ahead of Klaus Abelin, so not a massive surprise given the speed difference. It goes a bit deep though, doesn't he, into turn 1. Ralf almost misses the corner, just about gets there in time and scrambles it back on the track. So Ralf Schumacher very quickly back into the lead ahead of Klaus Abelin. Just had that slower pit stop than they would have liked. They also had the additional time, but they did go out about 6.5 seconds after they could have. But no worries, well clear now and pulling away rapidly. Antti Ramo in third is about 12 seconds back. Number 14 car of the Estonian, which is just headed down to turn 5. But Valentino Catalano is 2.8 seconds back now and was 0.4 quicker. So that's a battle which will develop, not yet, but it will develop for third place between Ramo and Catalano. Catalano, again, after every single championship point, driver third in the standings. 23 points behind Kratz and Soufi coming into this race, and 5 behind Cirelli and Apostolos. So this is where it's all going to change. We have to get the calculators out because positions are going to change in this next 20 minutes. It's a 55-minute plus 1 lap race. And Antti Ramo, as is always the case, with 0 additional seconds of time in the pits, and that's the same is true of Stefan Aust, which is why he emerged in the top 5. They're now going to try and take advantage of that, and others have got to catch up. So you're watching the number 2 car of Danny Soufi trying to close in. There through goes the pink number 8 car of Julian Apostolos. There Luca Link, and there Danny Soufi. And Luca Link doing a good job here. He's just done his personal best first sector. And on the last lap, he was quicker than Danny Soufi. Danny had a moment somewhere because he had a sluggish lap. Just dropped back somewhere. So whether he had a quick moment on the grass or had a bit of an issue somewhere with the car, but it wasn't a great lap last time around, which is why that gap has suddenly groan again. And that will be frustrating for the championship leader. So through he goes, crosses the line. Stefan Aust is in 5th. We've got Keanu Al-Azhari in 6th, then 7th Botolov, 8th at number 7 Luca Link, and 9th Danny Soufi, a second and a half behind now. So on that lap, personal best for Luca Link, 127.2, half a second slower. But Danny Soufi looks like he's struggling with something in that car. There's the race leader, Ralf Schumacher. He's already 5.8 seconds clear of Klaus Abelin. Klaus Abelin has got Antti Ramo and Valentino Catalano coming after him. Catalano could easily get a second-place finish out of this because he's catching the two ahead. 2.2 seconds behind Antti Ramo now, the number 14 car, which runs in 3rd. The number 70 car, Catalano, the one that is absolutely flying currently. So remember, Ralf Schumacher and David Schumacher, even if they win, won't get the 25 points as guest drivers. So at the moment, the 25 points coming the way of Felipe Laza and Klaus Abelin, who are 4th in the championship, and they need to stay within 50 points of the championship leaders to stay in mathematical contention. They are 38 behind. Sorry, they're 5th in the championship because they dropped behind Keanu Al-Azhari yesterday. They're 38 behind, and they need to be within 50 of the championship leaders to have a mathematical chance of staying in contention at the Sachsenring. So they can't be outscored by more than 11 points. Keanu Al-Azhari is 33 points adrift. He needs to keep an eye on the points gap as well. But first, he wants to get himself back up to 5th place, which I think he will do shortly because he's much, much quicker than Stefan Aust, and he's got the gap down to 5.4 seconds. It's 2 to 3 seconds a lap quicker. So number 21, Al-Azhari, catching number 71, Aust, for 5th place. They're currently making their way down to the hairpin at turn 5. But for Danny Soufi, he continues to lose ground, not as much on that last lap, 0.1 of a second. He was losing half a second a lap to Luca Link, but I wonder if all is not completely well with that car, because Danny Soufi is a driver that has rarely been off the podium this year. 2 wins at the Lausitz Ring, 2nd place finishes at the Lausitz, at Zandvoort and at Hockenheim, 3rds at Zandvoort and Hockenheim. Incident at Hockenheim in the middle race, which put them down to 8th place, and yesterday finishing in 6th position. Remember, you've got to catch and pull more than 5 seconds clear of any car to gain a place as well, with the time penalty that's been added on in the grandstand. Somebody's had a late night, having a bit of a catch up there, while the other fans watch the final part of this race. Ralf Schumacher, 9.5 seconds clear now of Klaus Abelin. Crossed the line. They have already gone, and into turn 3 we've got Antti Ramo and Valentino Catalano, 2.6 seconds between them. So Danny Soufi currently is in 9th place, would get the points for 7th because Stefan Aust is a guest driver as well, and that would be 9 points for coming home in 7th place. At the moment, Cirelli and Apostolos are in 7th place, but would get the points for 5th. With 2 guest starters ahead of them, that would give them 11th. Catalano and Pommer are currently running in 4th place, but that would give them the points for 3rd with the Schumachers ahead. So they would get 16 points. Felipe Lassa and Klaus Abelin currently in 2nd place, but on course for 25 points. And then Keanu Al-Azhari 6th, on course for the points for 4th, would get 13 points. So I reckon, quick maths, 172 points as it stands for Soufi and Kratz, 156 each for the pairings of Cirelli and Apostolos, and Pommer and Catalano. They'll be tied on points, but Cirelli and Apostolos have got 1 more race win. They've had 2 wins. Pommer and Catalano just won the first round of the season. So if they're tied on points, you count back who's got the most wins. They've got the same number of wins, the most seconds, and then so on and so forth. But that'd be on 156 points each, I reckon, and that would be 16 points then behind the championship leaders, Kratz and Soufi, and with still 50 points available the final weekend of the season at the Sachsenring. 150 points for Lassa and Abelin. They'd still be in contention, 22 points adrift. And Al-Azhari would still be mathematically in contention, 29 points adrift on 143. But a lot can happen between now and the checkered flag, and if it's normally, it follows the normal pattern, it definitely will change in this final 15 minutes or so of the race that we've got. 13.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go. And Catalano catching Ramo, but not that quickly anymore. Last lap he was about 2.5 tenths quicker. Look at this meanwhile. This is the number 70 car of Catalano making his way through the traffic to get onto the case of Antti Ramo, who's almost there. That was him just putting, actually both of them passing Abelin, wasn't it? Abelin is the bronze level driver, so he's dropped from 2nd to 4th on that lap, Klaus Abelin. That changes the points already. They've been gobbled up by Antti Ramo on that lap. He's gone past and he's taken with him now Catalano, so they move up to 2nd and 3rd. More points for them, less points for Abelin and Lassa. And the game very much now on. Catalano there in the number 70 red and black Gebhard Motorsport car, catching up to Antti Ramo, who had a much shorter pit stop. He's a bit rough and ready through the right-hander as well, as they go through turn 1 and past the commentary box window. Al-Azhari was right underneath the rear wing of Stefan Aust as they went into turn 1, so there could be a change of position there for 5th place just behind, because that was mighty close, and Al-Azhari has been catching Aust very rapidly, so I reckon when we see him next, Al-Azhari will be up to 5th place, so we'll have to recalculate the points. But first, let's concentrate on this battle with Catalano and Ramo. This is the battle now for 2nd place. They've left behind Klaus Abelin in 4th place already, and he's going to drop 4th place between now and the end of the race, because Al-Azhari, once he gets past Aust, he's going to catch Abelin very quickly. This is a replay of how and where it happened, as the number 14 car of Antti Ramo first squeezed past, and then 2 corners later, coming up to the chicane at turns 9 and 10, it was the turn of Valentino Catalano. So Catalano squeezing past. He didn't want to lose any time to Abelin, because he's really having this battle with Antti Ramo, and this is basically for 25 points. The Schumachers look like they're going to get the win, but they won't get the 25 points as guest starters. That battle comes past the commentary box window, flashes almost nose to tail towards the braking zone for turn 1. It's a little downhill drop into this right-hander as well. Continues to drop through the apex, but then it's a relatively short, steep climb up to the left-hander at turn 2. Look at the inside then for Catalano, but he can't find a way through yet. All he can do is apply the pressure to Antti Ramo, and yes, indeed, Al-Azhari has got through to 5th place ahead of Stefan Aust. I thought he probably would, the way they were absolutely together when I last saw them coming past the commentary box window. So Al-Azhari up to 4th place, and he's going to start flying after Abelin as well. He's probably going to do it. He's 11.5 seconds behind Abelin, and he's much quicker. He's a couple of seconds a lap quicker, and there's still 10 minutes or so remaining, plus that 1 lap in the race. What about Danny Sufi? Still 2.2 seconds behind Luca Link. That's credit to Luca Link, who's doing a very good job in only his 2nd weekend in the championship. But I do suspect that all is not well with that number 2 car of Danny Sufi. Maybe it picked up some damage the front right corner when he had the contact earlier on as well. At 5 seconds to his time, it still keeps him ahead of Maxim Dirick, so the 5 seconds on top of Danny Sufi's time is not going to cost him a position at the moment, but it means if he wants to overtake anybody, he's got to overtake them and pull 5 seconds clear, and the way the car is going, that looks unlikely. So damage limitation for the championship leaders, who are going to lose a big advantage here in terms of the points as it stands. But Antti Ramo is standing in the way of Valentino Catalano and Marcus Pommer, getting 5 more points here. They're on course for 20. If the red car gets ahead, it'll get 25, and that might just make the difference at the end of the season. And Valentino Catalano knows it as they make their way through towards the left-hander at turn 3, shows his nose. The right-hander coming up after this is a possibility as well, if you get a better exit, to get alongside and then dive down the inside at the hairpin at turn 5. But it's a good exit for Antti Ramo, and the Estonian driver, I think, is going to be safe to hold on to that position for now. Down at the hairpin, indeed he is. Good driving this from Antti Ramo. Of course, has did the whole race on his own. He's 41, comes from the capital of Estonia, Tallinn, and has been very, very successful kart racer in the Estonian National Championships in the KZ2 and the DD2 categories, gearbox categories. It's been a top 4 finisher in the championship on numerous occasions. Was a runner-up in the Rotax Max Estonian Karting Championship in 125cc karts back in 2008. Did a bit of Formula Renault racing, finished 3rd in the Finnish Championship, was a race winner back in 2010. And 2 years ago, tried his hand at touring car racing, raced in the Italian TCR Championship and finished 12th in that. Only did selected races in TCR last year. This is his first season racing V8 prototypes in this LMP3 category. And Antti Ramo doing an excellent job, but he's going to have to work very hard to fend off Valentino Catalano, who now shows his nose again under the braking zone on the way into turn 1, trying to force the Estonian into a mistake. That's not happening. Ramo stays ahead just about in the number 14 car, but Catalano is getting impatient. Meanwhile, Alizari is only 3.5 seconds behind Abelin now, so he's surely on this lap. If not this lap, then the next is going to move up to 4th place and pick up a couple of additional valuable championship points as well. But meanwhile, we continue to watch this battle for 2nd place. Antti Ramo doing a superb job. Catalano, best chance looks to be at turn 1, because that is where he's shown his nose a couple of times. He was 4th in the championship last year alongside Robin Rogalski. He's teamed up with last year's champion Marcus Pommer this year. Raced for a different team last year, for the DKR engineering team. He's raced in the European Le Mans Series in LMP3 before, though, so has experience of these sorts of cars. A few races in the German Formula 4 Championship back in 2021, and was 5th in the French Formula 4 Championship the year before that. Here we go then. This is Klaus Abelin about to be gobbled up by Keanu Alizari in the blue and white number 21 car. The Mullner Motorsport car dives to the inside. Abelin cannot do anything about it, and there's going to be a change for 4th place. So Alizari goes through with a neat move. And behind, not far behind, is Stefan Aust. So it could be more trouble for Klaus Abelin. Having dropped to 5th, he might drop to 6th in the next few minutes as well if he's not careful. You can just see Aust in the background there in the blue and red car, and he is quicker as well. His last lap was a 127.5. Abelin was a 132.4. So I think that is almost certainly going to change. The 47 car of Jaime Guzman just being lapsed there by Klaus Abelin. And he needed to get on with that so he didn't get delayed through the first sequence of corners. But he is looking increasingly likely that Aust is going to catch him. He's got this back marker in between himself and the Stefan Aust car at the moment. He's actually holding up the car that he's just lapped Guzman through that first sector. So he gets on the gas now. Guzman thinking about unlapping himself here in the black and green number 47 car. He's in 12th place. He's a lap down on the leaders, but he's actually as quick as Abelin through that sector. Abelin, though, they're coming after him, but a bit ragged over the curbs. The blue and red Stefan Aust car, the number 71 machine, run by the Rinaldi Racing Squad. The older drivers, they run in the trophy categories, separate trophy championship as well, which Torsten Kratz is narrowly ahead at the moment in the standings. And here we go. This is Stefan Aust about to come through, because Guzman has unlapped himself on Abelin. That held Abelin up a bit more, and he's got down the inside. He's going to get down the inside of the back marker as well, just about. And that is determined stuff from Stefan Aust, and it puts him up ahead of Klaus Abelin and up into 5th place now. And Abelin will have Julian Apotelos and Luca Link coming after him next, so it's going to be a tricky end to the race for him. And he loses too many points, might drop out of mathematical contention for the championship as well. So you've got to be very, very careful. Ralf Schumacher, meanwhile, is 16.6 seconds clear of Antti Ramo. Antti Ramo still 0.7 of a second clear of Catalano. Get a replay of this then. And yeah, Abelin just, as soon as he got past Guzman, he seemed to lose his speed, and then Guzman unlapped himself, and then he got kind of boxed in. But I always think that Stefan Aust was going to get there anyway, but it was determined stuff for Aust to also dispatch to the back marker at the same time. It almost came together here on the way into the chicane, because he almost missed the apex. He just about scrambled it in. It was just about on the line, but perfectly done in the end. And good driving this from Stefan Aust to get himself up into pretty impressive 5th place. So Daddy Sufi and Torsten Kratz are in 9th place. They'll get the points for 7th. They're still only going to get 9 points as it stands. Cirelli and Apotelos are currently running in 7th place, but that could change soon, because 6th place is on the cards. And if they get up to 6th place, they will get the points for 4th, because there are 2 guest starters ahead of them by my reckoning. And that would mean 13 points, 2 extra points to get them to within 14 points of the championship lead. Pommer and Catalana are 3rd, are going to get the points for 2nd if it stays like this, which means that they are on course for 20 points now. And Antti Ramo is on course for the 25 points as it stands. Massa and Abelin dropping down the order. So I reckon as it stands, Pommer and Catalano 12 adrift of Kratz and Sufi, and 2 behind them in third. You've then got this replay, though, of, as predicted, Abelin losing the place to Apotelos. So there you go, they are up to 6. They will get those 13 points, as I said. So with that move, it is Pommer and Catalano on 160, I reckon. Cirelli and Apotelos on 158. And 172 for Kratz and Sufi. So I reckon 14 points between the 3 of them going into the final weekend of the season, which is next to nothing, really. But it all depends what happens in that battle between Valentino Catalano and Antti Ramo. If he can get through, he can get another 5 points here, Catalano, and that then would make sure he's second in the championship, get him to within single-figure points of the championship lead. But Antti Ramo has been able to sustain the pressure for 6 or 7 laps now. Catalano's definitely quicker on the way into turn 1, but he's never quite close enough coming out of the final turn to have a proper lunge down the inside. Got 2.5 minutes to find a way through. Putting the car almost sideways there, though, was Antti Ramo, who just got on the gas, unleashed 455 brake horsepower, and the tyres didn't like it. They're getting old, they're getting worn, and they had a big power slide coming out through into turn 2. Didn't seem to lose too much time, but that will just give a bit of encouragement to Valentino Catalano there in third place. Can he do anything about the car ahead? Can he find one opportunity? I think he's only going to get one opportunity to get second place. 5 more points if he can do it, and they are going to be hugely, hugely valuable points in the context of the championship fight, with rounds running out now to catch the leaders, Kratz and Sufi. You know that Kratz and Sufi are unlikely to have as bad a round points-wise next time out as they've had here. It's been a really tough Nürburgring weekend for them, but surely the form that they've had for the rest of the year, they're going to be back on it, back fighting for podiums at the final round. So this is the opportunity, while you can, to take big points away from them. But Antti Ramo standing in the way at the moment of Valentino Catalano, and again, Catalano just can't live with him through the final sector, and that is frustrating too, because he's always quicker coming down. He picks up a bit of a toe coming down into turn 1. He's very, very good on the brakes, Catalano, into that first corner at the Yokohama S, but again, he's just not close enough to be able to have a proper lunge. He's right with him. Look, he's gained 3 lengths through that first corner. He just needs to get closer somewhere, but the body language of the car tells you that Valentino Catalano is determined to try and find a way through here, fighting for everything he's got. He's taking to the curbs. He's on the grass there as he came through into turn 4. And he's just making sure that Antti Ramo has to drive absolutely flat out. Abelin and Lasser have lost another place because Luca Linker's got past Abelin now and into 7th place as well. This is a replay of where it happened, and it was on the way up the hill into the braking zone for the chicane. Right, back to the battle for second place. Antti Ramo, Valentino Catalano. Catalano has got to just stay with him somehow for his next sequence of corners through the chicane and through the final turn. Then he might have a chance at turn 1. The race leader is just gone across the start-finish line now with 9 seconds to spare. So the time will run out on the next lap. There's one more on top of that. So 2 and a bit laps for Valentino Catalano to find a way past Antti Ramo. He's a bit closer this time, isn't he, on the way into the final turn? He's not exactly close enough, though, I don't think, but this might give him a chance to really pile the pressure on through turns 1 and 2 if he's as good on the brakes as he has been up until this point. He's flashing the headlights as well. Come on, he says, get out of my way. I've got a championship to try and fight for here. He shows his nose. This is as close as he's been, but Antti Ramo closes the door on the way into the left at turn 2. He gets and stays back ahead through turns 3 and 4. Catalano is also a bit quicker than Ramo, or he has been on the last couple of laps. So can he wind it up here to launch an attack at turn 5, or is he going to have to wait till the last lap of the race? I think he probably is, to have a go into turn 1. Ramo is scrambling now with the tyres. They're both on the absolute limit of adhesion here in this battle for second place. Smoking the tyres this time on the way to turn 5 as he locks up the brakes and drags the Michelin, screaming and kicking over the tarmac is Antti Ramo. He's on an absolute mission here, 100%. to try and get his second podium finish of the year. He had a win at Zandvoort. That's his only podium so far in his maiden season of the championship, but he's a regular top 4, top 5 finisher and he's definitely capable of keeping Catalano behind, as we've seen for lap after lap. But Catalano now gets really close, under braking on the way to the Vidal chicane. He needs to stay with him coming out of the corner to have one more chance from the last lap of the race for Ralf Schumacher. He's just making his way through the traffic down into turn 1. And David Schumacher there, closest to the picture, looking very relaxed. It's going to be 2 out of 2. It's going to be a perfect weekend, isn't it, with fastest laps and pole positions as well. But Ramon Catalano have just gone flying down into turn 1. Very closely matched. Is Catalano going to be able to find a way through? We'll wait and see when they come back on picture. They are going to be so close. Yes, he's got him. He's got through down the inside. Catalano on Ramo right at the start of the last lap of the race. He had one chance. He's had one lunge, and he's gone through into second place. And that's going to be huge for their championship chances, because it'll deliver another 5 points. It was his best opportunity, and it was in the end his only one on the last lap of the race. He showed his nose, and then he just forced Ramo into a mistake. He just missed the apex, ran wide, locked up, door opened up, and Catalano goes through. Everybody down at the Gebhardt team on the edge of their seats there, and they're cheering at the result of that. Fantastic effort, so that will be huge. They'll get another 5 points for that, and I reckon that'll get them to within, quick unofficial maths this, but 7 points of the championship lead. Wow, what a season this is for the Prototype Cup Germany. But Ralf Schumacher wins with David Schumacher for the second time this weekend. Ralf Schumacher wins. Not a sentence I thought I'd ever say in a commentary box, but he's back, everybody, and he's a race winner once again. Ralf Schumacher and David Schumacher comfortably win. 2 out of 2 for them. But here to take a brilliant second place, Valentino Catalano. Good work done by Marcus Pommer at the start of the race as well. Antti Ramo, though, will still be happy with his second podium of the season. But the points are the thing, with the guest drivers not scoring points. That's like a win for Valentino Catalano and Marcus Pommer. Huge. Others, of course, will benefit from more points with guest starters out of their way. Alcazari, he's going to take 4th place. Stefan Haus has just crossed the line there with an excellent 5th. Potlos was coming for him, but couldn't catch him up. So Potlos comes home 6th. The driver that started the day 2nd in the championship with Cirelli, but he will get the points for 4th, 13 points. Oh dear, Klaus Abelin has a spin right at the end of the race. Been a really tough stint for him, that, so he's going to tumble further down the order. Now that's significant because Danny Sufi moves ahead. He also had to move ahead and beat him by 5 seconds, which he wouldn't have done because they were coming towards the last corner. So Sufi had got past him. Abelin was off the racing line, and then he got the power down and lost the back end, and that will be very frustrating for the championship pursuers, because even if he'd lost the place, even if he'd just stayed a couple of seconds behind Potlos wouldn't have got the position. But as it is, he will, because with the 5 seconds added onto his time, he's still far enough clear, Danny Sufi, to get 8th place. And 8th place becomes the points for 6th, becomes 10 points. That's another championship point. So I reckon that will be 8 points between Kratz and Sufi, the championship leaders, and Pommer and Catalano 2nd. And then, again, unofficially, I reckon 15 points behind Cirelli and Potlos. So we've got a proper fight for the championship coming up. Keanu Alazari comes home in 4th place. We'll get the points for 3rd, so we'll get 16 points. And that keeps him in mathematical contention as well. He's 27 points adrift. It's going to be tough with only 50 points available, but he has got a chance. Abelin and Lassa finish 9th. They'll get the points for 7th. That will give them 9 points. They're actually still just about mathematically in contention as well. 39 behind, 50 still available. No concern about points for these two, though. David Schumacher gives the thumbs up after an excellent first stint. Ralf Schumacher gets out of the car, and he doesn't really look a day older than he did when he was racing in Formula 1. He certainly kept himself fit, Ralf Schumacher. Tough races, these 55-minute plus 1 lap races. Very physical, heavy cars to drive as well. And he's barely out of breath, is he? So fantastic effort by the 49-year-old veteran of 180 Formula 1 Grand Prix starts. And what a great way to do it with your son. And they might want to do this again, because if they're going to drive like this every time they compete together, they're going to be hard to beat. So now they're going to start to think, should we do a championship together next year? Maybe come and do this one, because they've done superbly well. The team have prepared a great car for them, no doubt, as well, but they've driven it brilliantly, and they've won that race by 18.2 seconds. So Ralf and David Schumacher take the victory. Antti Ramo giving a hug to Ralf Schumacher. Great moment for him. He watched Ralf racing in Formula 1 when he was racing in karts. Checkered flag there, the moment that the Yas Racing team took the victory for the second time this weekend. David got to take the flag yesterday. Ralf gets to see the checkered flag today. And as I say, 21 years after he saw the checkered flag as a Grand Prix winner at this very circuit. So, confirmation of the results. Ralf and David Schumacher, after 37 laps of racing, win by 18.2 seconds. But the points for the win go to Catalano and Pommer, now in a very good position in the championship. Antti Ramo, an excellent third place. Keanu Al-Azari fights back to fourth. Stefan Aust in a very good fifth place as well. Julian Apotelos and Riccardo Cirelli come home in sixth. They are also very much in championship contention. Well, good drive in the second stint from Luca Link as well to secure that seventh place for the team. The number 7 car of him and Almeida with a good result there, actually in seventh place. Danny Sufi and Torsten Kratz with a 5-second penalty with a damage early on ended up in eighth place. Now though, time for the celebrations on the podium, and you can see just what that second place means to Catalano and Pommer. Catalano fist pumping the air as he walked to the podium. As I said, that will feel like a win, but the winners are undoubted today. They've been undoubted all weekend. It's this pair, David and Ralf Schumacher, onto the top step of the podium. To the left of the picture, we've got Catalano and Pommer, and to the right of the picture, third on the podium, is Antti Ramo. David Schumacher and Ralf Schumacher there. The trophy winner will be invited to come up onto the podium as well. He's already there, Antti Ramo. And now we get the team being represented as well, because it is, of course, a team sport. It is not just about the drivers. A lot of work going to preparing this for the team. So Yas Racing team with a perfect weekend. And now it's time for the national anthem. A hugely proud and enjoyable moment for the Schumachers as the German national anthem rings out around the circuit tannoys here at Nürburgring. Pretty much opposite the commentary box here, so looking across, you can see the edge of it, but there are a load of people there. It's attracted a lot of attention, this driver pairing this weekend, and there's a big crowd gathered around the podium. There's been big smiles on the face of Ralf Schumacher all weekend, which has been joyous to see. He's absolutely loved his racing, and he probably hasn't been able to say that his whole career. He's had some tough times. It's an intense sport, this, but now he's just doing it for fun, and it's great to see that release of joy on Ralf Schumacher. A really good job done by Marcus Pommer and Valentina Catalano as well, as they collect their second place trophy. Antti Ramo made them work for it and held up until the very last lap of the race. Almost got a second place finish, but excellent job by him to get that third place in the end. And David Schumacher receives his additional trophy as the highest placed junior in the race. And Antti Ramo, for the older drivers for the trophy category, is the top placed driver as well. As I say, mathematically, I think for the juniors, Danny Sufi can't be caught now by Danny Catalano, but Antti Ramo, valuable victory that, because he started the day only 8 points clear of Torsten Kratz in the fight for the trophy championship. He's outscored him today. It will still be tight, but he will go into the Saxon ring with a good chance of becoming the trophy champion for the season. So the drivers now, the team representative, pose together on and around the top step of the podium for the photos, and that just will leave one official thing left to do, and that, of course, will be to crack open the champagne. So here we go, the bubbly is opened. It's of the Schumacher vintage, with Ralf Schumacher very much involved in the winery business these days, and fine wines they are as well. And they spray the champagne, celebrate what's been a great weekend. We look forward to your company next time out for the Sports Prototype Cup.